President Trump now arriving at Graceland for a bit of a detour on his stop. I believe there is some audio. We're going to try to listen in here.
I'm going to be your tour guide today.
Very good.
Yes, nice to meet you. Welcome to Graceland.
Looks great. Hello, everybody. We were here and we're touting how well it's done with the crime stats, and over a period of 5 months, it's way, way down, and we're proud of it. We're going to come back in 2 or 3 months, and we'll have a very, one of the safest cities. So Memphis went through a terrible thing, and like in D.C., we're doing great, and every place we go, we're doing great, to be honest with you. So, Frank, I'd love to go to Chicago. I'd love to be invited to Chicago. We would get rid of crime in Chicago very easily, but the Democrats don't want to do that. I'd love to go to San Francisco. Would make it something, would bring it back to where it was. And the mayor's working hard. He's a Democrat. He's working hard there, but we could do things that they just can't do. But every place we go, and Memphis, I guess you probably heard the crime numbers are way down. Most of them are down by 75% and more. And within 2 or 3 months, we'll have it down to over 90%. So you have to be happy. Elvis would be very happy about that, right?
Everyone loves Elvis.
I love Elvis, too. Elvis, you know, they all say, did you know Elvis? So I knew Frank Sinatra. I knew most of them. Unfortunately, I never met Elvis, and that would be one I would have liked a lot. But I do like his music, I will say. So thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming and visiting us.
Okay, let's take a look.
All right, so welcome to the living room.
Go ahead.
All right, so he's gonna get a tour there of Graceland. John, he is known to be a big Elvis fan. He has professed his love of Elvis and his music over the years. Said he's never met him, but he was happy to announce he was going to be making this stop.
Yeah, well, remember when Elvis met Richard Nixon?
Yes.
so many years ago.
Paying back the favor.
Yeah, and you know, Elvis has been a favorite of a lot of presidents. It's interesting that the president had the opportunity to stop by here. I mean, it's a real kind of bucket list. If you ever go to Memphis, Graceland is one of the great places to go, along with the Pearl Oyster Bar. Oh, look at this. Let's listen to here.
We're just listening to, which I know that song was something that you played at the White House when you presented Elvis the Medal of Freedom.
That was a big day.
Yeah.
It was a great day. It was a great honor, actually. We have some wonderful people outside. We have some of the biggest politicians in America outside. And when they heard about Elvis, they said, we'll do that. So, how's the house doing? Good?
It's wonderful. It really is. It's, you know, Elvis, you know, wanted to live there forever. He's really the American dream. He was really an American. He made every American feel that they could have the things that he had. They gave them reason, and he actually made America great. Yeah. He really did. He gave people reason to feel that they deserved something, regardless of where they came from, regardless of who their parents were, regardless of anything. He gave them the belief that they could be anything they wanted to be.
And does his music sell better today than it did during his prime?
He actually, the estate makes more money today than it ever made while Elvis was alive, even when accounting for inflation. Our new epic, which you really need to see, and hopefully you can in the White House, the new Baz Luhrmann epic biography,
right.
Just incredible, broke all records for any, beat the Beatles, beat Led Zeppelin, any other music biography. So he's really as relevant or more relevant today than he's ever been.
You need to see it. That's to see all these people. These are the biggest people in the country. There's our Attorney General in case you get in trouble. Would you help out Elvis? Elvis maybe, I don't know, gets a little bit of a pass. Not much. We're not allowed to give much of a pass. But he was great. You're a big fan of Elvis, family.
My mother was, especially.
Yeah. Elvis loved law enforcement. He actually donated a lot of money to law enforcement. He wanted a badge so badly that he threatened the Shelby County sheriff that if he didn't get a badge, he'd run against them to get the badge. So he has a collection of...
He would have been tough to beat.
Yes, we have a collection of over 200 badges in our collection.
Is Elvis beatable? What do you think? CNN would say no.
Have you been here before, Mr. President, or is this your first time?
I've never been here, no. I'm a big fan of Elvis. Who isn't, right? But I think he's great. I think his music is incredible. I understood his life. His life was, complicated, right? Yes. It was complicated. But he was terrific, sure. And he was born with a voice that he never lost, right?
Yes, exactly.
He other difficulties, but he never lost the voice.
The last day.
Yeah.
And Graceland really is the fulfillment of a childhood promise one day that Elvis made to his parents to buy them a big house so that he could take care of them. And that's what Graceland represents.
Well, he loved his mom
Yes.
so much. I think the father, but he really loved his mom. And
Yes.
I think when his mom went, it was very hard for him, right?
Very, very hard. And really, Graceland is probably the most positive thing that when foreigners come from all over the world, tens of millions of foreigners come to Graceland, it's what they really represent, the best of America, because Elvis really represented the best of America.
Well, you're getting a lot of publicity today with all of these. You have all the fake news media here. Look at this. I mean, you ever see so much? Do you get treated, tell me, does Elvis get treated better than me? Because with me, it's fake news. With Elvis, it was a little fake news too, I think.
I think in the UK we're about the same as you.
No, really?
So you have some from both. You know, it's people want to. You know, he was so revolutionary and so important that I think that brilliance people are afraid of.
Yeah.
And I think people who are afraid of brilliance have to lash out.
Wow, it was special. Please.
We have a few more things over here I wanted to show you. So if you'll just come this way.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a portrait of Elvis that was done when he was in basic training in Fort Hood, Texas. And it shows you Elvis's natural hair color of blonde. He was born
Really?
blonde hair, blue eyes. He dyed his hair black because he thought it brought his facial features better out on film. And so he started doing that after his first movie,
Wow.
Love Me Tender.
Great.
This is actually the oldest guitar in our collection. It's a 1956 Gibson J200. Elvis used it in the movies Loving You, Jailhouse Rock, and King Creole, and then used it in Vegas in '69 and '70. And then at the top of the stairs, we have the outfit that Elvis wears at the end of the '68 comeback special when he sang the song If I Can Dream, which was especially written for the show. After the assassination of Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy, Elvis felt like he needed to make a statement of how America could be. And so that's what If I Can Dream represents. And he ended the show wearing that outfit right there.
So he loved this place, right?
He did. And he loved his country. And yeah, everything you see in the house is original. All the furnishings, all the drapes, everything that you're seeing is original. The chandelier above the stairs was actually taken apart here in the hallway to be reassembled because it was too large to fit through any of the doors.
Oh.
Yeah. And then we're going to come this way. This would have been the master bedroom, the primary room in the house. You can come on in.
All right, so there goes the president to offer a tour of Graceland. I guess he'll probably get to see the Jungle Room as well.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.